Welcome to Talking in Stations. It's March 26th. I'm Matterall here with Rich. How are you doing, Rich?
27th in the UK, but I'm fine.
Oh, that's right. Past midnight. We're getting started a little bit late today. We have a really cool guest today. He's the streamer called, I believe it's Gaming Since the 70s, Thanak. He'll join us in just a second. Also in here is Rova, Abby. Rova, how's it going, Abby?
I'm good, thanks, Matterall.
All right, good. So today we'll talk about, before the interview, we'll talk a little bit about some of the war news going on and this huge change that just dropped about industrialism. What's the best way to put it? I guess industrial changes are on the way soon. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. Okay, first let's go to the Keepstar kills that happened today. One was in HZAQ, and then also today, another one in JG TAC Q. So that's two more Keepstars in one day. They also, this is Pappy Forces, wiped out a Tatara, a Dracos Fortizar, and another Fortizar. So there's just destroying structures at a pretty rapid clip. I have some statistics here. On the 25th, they had 481 structures. This is the Gunzworm and the Imperium. And now they're down to 462. Looking at that pace, it's still like a good 50 days before there's an assault on 1DQ. So this is not going to happen overnight, but there is definitely an increasing pace at which things are being destroyed inside of Delve. Now we focus on Delve because that's the prize, right? Once SOV has been eliminated, the SOV isn't really what's important here. What's important is what happens to the Imperium when they're stuck on an island and the shoreline is getting tighter and tighter and tighter because they have a ton of assets in the form of super capital ships that need to go somewhere. Will they be asset safety to Ermelin, or will they be used to fight some kind of a last stand? That's actually what's important because that is their power base. So it's not a matter of SOV, it's a matter of basically influence and power. Okay, so that's a little bit of the war news today. The other thing that came down the pike is this industry change that is on its way. And I want to note the word significant there in the subtitle, a significant update to industry, and can't emphasize that enough. We had a reaction stream with one of the CSM members that spent over 300 hours working on these sets of changes that are on their way. His name is Kenneth Feld. And so if you want to see that, I'll put that in chat just now. But it's about a 2.5 hour session with him and an entire, 20 people or so in the public setting. So it's kind of like a town hall featuring Kenneth. And we had CCPers in the audience as well, answering questions for players. It was actually a really good session. And this was just a few minutes after the dev blog had been released. So we were unpacking it as best we could. So
can I just say, someone said there in the chat, you missed the title opportunity, Industrial Revolution. And I think
totally,
like, one, great comment, but two, I think that really does, really does bring about the significance of these changes and how big these changes are. I mean, this is the first time in a long time we've had such a significant shakeup to the industrial, how industry will work in a long while.
Yeah, what did you think, Rich? You were there too.
I'm not an industrialist, but I can see that these industrial changes, given the previous industrial changes was far before my time, these ones, they're trying to do something, but I can't quite pinpoint what.
Okay. One other thing is, yeah, you're definitely not an industrialist, but there was other stuff in there, right? There was, you want to explain some of the other stuff that was in the dev blog that came out today that wasn't industrial?
Ah, yes. There's some sort of change, but they're not. Nobody's said a word what it is, but it's meant to affect cloaky camping or covert operations of some sort. And the other one would be the long-awaited release to the encounter surveillance system reserve banks, and hopefully a lot of that locked away reserve money will be up for grabs in the upcoming future, as well as some sort of incentive to, well, promote people to go back to ratting or doing things in nullsec space using their expensive carriers and raw cores, which they've sort of hidden away ever since the last few updates, which have made them remarkably unpopular.
Who coined the phrase industrial revolution?
My name's Zez and I'm stupid.
Oh my God. All right, that's a long one. Anyway, great name. We'll adopt it. We don't have a lot of time today to go over this. I'm pressed for time, so we're going to go ahead and postpone our industrial wrap up and review until Sunday, when we can have a whole panel look at it. We'll bring Kenneth back if we can. We'll definitely have people from Wormholes and LowSec and HighSec as well looking at this. We might even do a review of some industry stuff with our DamFam guy, Con. So we'll put a whole package together. We're going to spend a lot of time on this, but I don't want to rush it today. Again, check out that reaction stream that we had earlier in the day. Okay, so we'll move over to our guest, who is gaming since the 70s. He's also known as Thanak. Thanak, how are you doing?
Hi, doing great. Great. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So from what I understand, you're relatively a new player, but you're a returning player, right?
Well, yeah, I actually started actively playing the game about a year ago. So I'm like a 1 year newbie, but my account, I purchased EVE like during the first year it was released. So my account is a 2003 account. I tried it for about a week, and my wife made a character on it because I was playing with my wife, EverQuest at the time. My wife didn't like it, so we ended up playing some other game. So the account just stayed there asleep for about 16 years. And after watching a few YouTube videos, one among them was Industry for the Little Guy by the Lone Wolf. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, well, I think I played that game once. Should look fun, so I'm going to try it again. So I started about a year ago, and I've been playing since.
Oh, that's great. So you were familiar with it, and you came back. And again, how recently did you come back?
I started December, not last December, the one before. So like about, I'm at
2019.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And so, what is your programming like? What you're streaming, or actually you're a content creator on YouTube, right?
Yes. What I did is when I started playing the game, I watched a bunch of different content creator on YouTube and say, "Oh, this looked fun! Like these guys are recording what they're doing." But there was a lot of tutorial and a lot of things, a lot of like cool stories, the wingspan, the lone wolf. There's a bunch of stuff that was like very fun to watch. But I say, okay, what can I do that's never been done before? And I said, well, I'm starting the game, so I'm gonna record it. Like, what's the new player experience? Not what should you do as a new player, but how do you see the game as a new player? So I started recording on week 1, and I was doing a weekly update of my life in the game, like a weekly vlog of my life in the game, starting from a complete newbie, and every week how I progress, what I'm going to do, what was my thinking, how I saw the game. So if I look back at my first video, I was like making some new bro mistake and stuff, but that's okay. That's part of the learning. So I documented everything 1 week at a time.
Yeah, you also use some graphics to kind of help explain your concepts, right? That's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah. I do like a lot of Visio PowerPoints and trying to explain like my reasoning and what I'm thinking, how I'm approaching the game.
That's cool. Well, you have some fans here in Rova and Rich as well. Have you guys been? Are you guys familiar with his work?
I've been familiar more on the combative side against him, but yes, I'm quite familiar. And I believe Thanak is quite familiar with myself and the alliance I'm with, Plucky, and the people there.
That's right. You
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
see that your corp, Guns R Us, is soon to be approaching its. Actually, let me see when it was formally created. It'll looks like it'll be approaching its first birthday soon, based on when it was first created.
Yeah. We're about the corp. The corp was created about a year ago. Yeah, initially, when I created the corp, uh, it was mostly if I think it was around episode like 10 or 11, something like that, when I was started, because I started as a new bro industrialist, and I created the corp at one point because I needed something to be able to hold a structure, because I wanted to anchor a structure. So that's when I ended up creating the corp.
Actually, in 8 days, it'll be the first year anniversary, the first birthday of the corp, and you've come quite a long way. I believe you started in high sec, then you went into low sec, and now you're in nullsec, uh, and you're quite independent from the ongoings of a lot of the other alliances that or corporations that try to move into low sec or nullsec.
Well, yeah, if it's been quite a journey, because well, I started as a solo complete new bro. Uh, I spent about a month uh, mining and doing mission in ISEC until I figure and doing industry, because my focus was always doing industry. I start and initially I was progressing slowly, progressing every week, learning new stuff. Then I got into incursion, where it really helped me get some working capital to start to start something. And I was at a point where I was, after about 2 months, I was like, well, okay, what am I going to do in this game? Because if I'm not creating my fun, or if I'm not doing something, there's no point in watching my bank account go bigger. So I want to do industry. I need a structure to do industry. So I wanted to anchor an Adenor. And I made some math, and I went with the logic that it's pointless to anchor in ISEC. There's no reason to go anchor in ISEC. I want to own the structure, so I want to get some bonus. So I chose a low sec system next to ISEC, and then I started the corp. And at the same time, I went with the logic that, well, if I'm anchoring a structure, I want to share the fuel costs, because I can't fuel everything alone. So might as well start to recruit people. And a few of the viewers joined. So within about 2 weeks, we were about 10 in the corp, and started from there. People join and join and join and join. We moved to another low sec system, and we started an Avenger in Essence. Then we moved to Genesis in Beckett, and after a while, we were just too big for this single system in lowsec. So we started looking for a few neighboring system. We wanted to stay in lowsec, but we didn't find any place that weren't already taken by a strong group. So we found some place in Pureblind where the ADM was really low, and we decided to invade there.
So you guys know each other? You've bumped into each other in combat or something?
Oh, I believe Thanak has long been acquainted with the rest of Plucky adventurers. Etheris, Raw Style, Lijasu, a few pilots who've long frequented and stayed in Torinos and dipped into Pure Blind to, well, kill anything that moves there.
Does he know you in a good way or a bad way?
Well, hopefully on a good way. We've had our clashes and fights, and maybe we've killed a friend of theirs, carrier. But I think, Aetheris has spoken quite positively of you, Thanak. He's very glad to have you in Pure Blind. He sees you as obviously as somebody to shoot at an enemy, but also he quite likes what you're doing with your alliance. He thinks that's really what EVE alliances and nullsec really should be. Given he's a long-time veteran player and he's obviously ran corps and alliances for quite a while.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we did have a lot of running with Plucky, and actually, the way we see Plucky Adventurer is for us is kind of the local weather. It's a storm or a tornado. So since we live there, we kind of know how they operate, and we manage to draw our fault in them a few times. So we're kind of using Plucky a little bit as a moat around our area, where it's harder to come and invade us because they have to go through Plucky to get to us. So that's kind of like they're the crocodile in my moat. That's the way I see it.
He does ask if you like your poutine with the cheese curds or without the cheese curds.
Oh,
the poutine, yeah.
Poutine, yeah.
With you can't
with the cheese curds.
It's not poutine without. Wait, are you from?
He would also like to
Canada?
Yeah, I'm from Canada.
That's right. And judging by your accent, Quebec?
Yes, French Canadian. Well, hybrid Canadian, I would say, because I got family from both sides.
Very good. All right.
But I seen the videos, but on the second episode, it's a net worth of 197 million, and as I scroll up and been watching it, it just grows. It's now, by the 8th episode, it's up to 3.2, and then it gets bigger. There's quite a documented history with corp growth. You've made a lot of friends, I've noticed, with all sorts of people from all sorts of alliances helping you out throughout the journey.
Yes, but when I started the corp, I was a little naive, and I would, I made the friend that I found, and I wasn't like aware of the politics, the larger scale politics, and who was who, and I didn't know the big guys, and I did watch the news a little bit, but when you're a small growing corp, you don't know. I mean, whatever goons or tests are doing, it doesn't impact you when you're living in a small area of essence. So I didn't know all these guys, but I did eventually had a few people that joined my corp as alt, but they didn't tell me that they were alt of where that they had their main. I had one guy that has his main initiative, another that has a main in horde, and so they all ended up in guns. But when they were in guns, they were working for Guns R Us. They weren't working for their individual group. So they just came here, played their halt, and at some point, some of them actually enjoyed the lifestyle of a small corporation and the challenge that we're facing. So a bunch of them stuck around. So I did make a lot of contact with various group. I think actually in our alliance, we probably have people from all the other major alliance, but we're not aligned with them. So some of them, they came from there and they decided to stick with us and started living with us because they, like a bunch of people would have told me already, like they're in WAMP because they don't enjoy the big tie-dye fight, and they rather have like a fleet of 50 ship against 50 ship than going with the big fleet of 1,000 ships.
So the series is called Build My Industrial Empire, and we'll link it in chat here so you guys can watch it. You guys should watch it because he's got what I call underrated numbers. This content is really good. Recommended for EVE players of any stripe. You should check it out and put some more subscribers on his channel.
Yeah, it's really great content, and one thing I've liked about you, Tanak, you wanted to get into industry, and then you started looking into the numbers, and you did the calculations, you made your spreadsheet, and you said, okay, I'm not making money. This is losing me money. So you went off and you did incursions and you filled your wallet. But the whole time you were unhappy. And I remember watching those episodes, and your whole mood changes and you're like, oh, okay, I did 10 hours of incursions today. I made 250 million. It was fine. I'm bored. And then something clicked and you really pushed hard for the industry, and then you really pushed yourself into the low sec. And I don't mean to insult, but I think you got your nose, you got a bit of a bloody nose, and you learned kind of the hard way about low sec and the bigger groups out there, and you recovered and you grew stronger and you moved to nullsec, and you've really grown a great corporation and alliance underneath you. I think it's a credit to you and the pilots that fly with you, and your perseverance and your endurance. It's fantastic for a year-old character.
Yeah, I did at a point almost quit after we got kicked out of Avenger, and I went through a CEO burnout. Lasted about 3 days, but actually, I was like, okay, I'm done. I mean, because and it wasn't because the corp crashed; it's because we joined somebody else's alliance, and I was basically losing my flexibility that I had as a CEO of my own corp, where I had to follow alliance rule. And I mean, they weren't bad. They weren't a bad alliance. They were super great alliance. But I lost like all the flexibility I had to do what I want, and I wanted to play the game my way. So at that point, I was ready to call it quit. But a lot of people encouraged me to say, like, no, you can't. You've done too much. Stay in. So I went back.
Yeah, I think, and again, that really shows with you wanting to do it your way. I mean, both from the story you said there, and as well as Rich alluded to with your approach to nullsec. I mean, a lot of groups could go and join, and I don't mean to disparage other groups, but you could join a renter alliance, or you could become part of a much larger alliance, and get a little system to yourself. But you guys were like, we're going to go out there, we're going to claim this territory, we're going to get punched in the face, and if we're lucky, we can punch people back, and maybe we survive. That tenacity is great, I think.
Well, thanks. I mean, yeah, it is. It is the way. I mean, for me, renting was always out of the question. It was. Nah, I mean, like I said, I don't play a video game to be somebody else's serf. I mean, I'm in a game. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna fight and stand on my own 2 feet, or I'm gonna get kicked and then I'm gonna leave. So, but at that point, I'm not playing to be somebody's servant, so I'm never going to rent. That's for sure.
I see a lot of corps are built from like experienced players, and a lot of corps go on to do renting. But in your case, you're a fresh player making a fresh group, and you managed to gain and hold solve, which, especially from already established groups in Pure Blind. How have you been able to do that, and how has it benefited for you?
Well, the story changed a little bit after we left Avenger, and when I came back from my burnout, because I was approached by a very, very experienced FC who said, "Okay, I've been watching your show. You're doing great, and you're always saying that you need experience. You need people to be able to fight, because you don't know how to fight." And most of the group was industrialists at the time, so there were ISEC minor that were not too afraid and that could go into low sec, but typically would mine in ISEC and just go refine and produce in low sec. And he started organizing. That's Nem O'Reilly, RFC right now. He started organizing the group. I didn't know, but he was. I didn't know at the time who his main was, but it's Rexon Darkstar from NC Dot, and he trained most of our guys. We started small gate camp, small roam in low sec, and he started to build our military capability, and he started training the guys. So he trained our own FC so that we wouldn't be depending on him all the time. So he helped build our military to a point where we were able to actually stand on our own 2 feet. And so at the time we were able to field about 35 people in fleet. And when we were looking at new area, we found the area that was occupied at the time by Scumlord in Pureblind. But we saw the ADM were down, so on one night we went tossed everything, and then we started fighting them. Scumlord were actually a very experienced player, and they didn't have our number, but they were a very experienced player. But the other problem that we didn't knew at the time is that they had another group which was Absolute Honor, which had huge number. We're talking about 100 people in fleet, but they weren't as experienced and they were lacking strong FC. So what we did is we bought the SOV from Scumlord to get them out of the fight. So it cost us money, but we made the business decision. Okay, if they're staying in the fight, we can't fight both of these groups at the same time. So we're going to buy the SOV of Scumlord. And then we fought for about a month with Absolute. But we got, and initially it was like us with fleets of 30 to 40 people against their 100-man fleet. But we managed to come on top, and our number kept growing and growing and growing. So we eventually managed to push them out of the constellation.
Well, I love that, because you're like, it was a huge fleet of 100. And I think back to when I had started playing the game, and I thought, that is a huge fleet. We get spoiled by these ridiculously large numbers, but if you think of EVE Online in terms of like a Counter-Strike game, how many people fight in a Counter-Strike match, for instance?
10.
Yeah. And that's, that's considered like small gang in a different game. So it's, and this is no less professional as far as combat goes. So there was probably a lot to learn for you, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, initially, and you're talking about, I mean, we did have some people that had PvP experience, but we're talking about a lot of people that came from a pure industrial background, which were minor, and they had to learn how to anchor. They had to learn how to broadcast. They had to learn how to target what was broadcast and how to shoot.
How did you get them past their risk aversion? Because it's very
what
scary.
I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. This is like started with nothing, and now he's holding SOV. It's incredible.
But to bring people out with you, like how much? Tell us about that. How do you do that?
Well, do
you say I'll just replace all your stuff, or like what?
No, but we do SRP, obviously. I think that the way the people are, we have a very strong corp and alliance spirit. Like the guy believe, because from day one, and most of these guys have been following my series, and they saw that I'm not there to get rich on their behalf, and that's always been like my motto is I want my member to get rich. I don't want to overcharge them or tax them, or just like, because there's a lot of CEO that are acting a little bit predatory toward new bro and toward industrialists, and they're just taxing them, and they just want to get rich off them, and and I think that the member in our corp, they understood that that's not the goal that we have.
So you remind me of Anthony Quinn in Lawrence of Arabia, where he says, "I'm a river to my people," which means all his wealth flows through him to nourish his lands, which is his people. So I figure that's what your style is.
Well, yeah, but I mean, obviously I do make my money, but I'm not. I mean, like since I've had the corp, I've never like took cash for me from the corp. I've never all the money I have. I've always separated my wealth and the corp wealth, and I'm managing the corp. And the way I see it is, the corp belong to all the member. I'm the guy that is holding the share, but it's not not my corp. It's our corp.
Well, I mean, we've seen CEOs that are well liked. We see CEOs that do a good job. You have like really good fans out here in chat that are watching you, cheering for you, and we've seen that before. But I think what's different is for you to take industrialists that have different goals, right? They're more like, I want to count progress. I don't want to go out and fight. That's emotionally risky because I could lose and I could be humiliated, and these sorts of things, these calculations, the chances of me winning are low. And so I wonder how you manage to get industrialists to go out and participate in the game.
Well, I hammered a point, which is a very important point, is industry is based on structure. And the way to make a profit in industry is to have well-rigged structure in good location to be able to make money. So, and these guys are number guys. So I hammered to them the number. When we were in Becky, for example, we had a Tucker ring, and we had a rig, Tucker rig for capital part. We had a rig for large ship. So we were able to produce Orca at 200 million profit each, and we produced like a lot of them. At one point, we were the highest industrial index system in Genesis. Oh. But the guy, I told him, you want to have the advantage of that good industrial infrastructure. Well, you need to fight it because somebody's going to come and shoot it. So you need to, when somebody come and shoot the structure, you need to be there and grab your pitchfork and stand in front of the invading army. Yeah, because he's going to shoot you, and you have a build job running, so he's going to destroy your profit if you don't fight. So yeah.
I figure like if you're in the water and there are sharks around, you don't necessarily need to defeat a shark, but you need to hit it in the nose to dissuade it from attacking you. I wonder if that's not a similar situation. You need to at least show that you're willing to defend something and that you do have some people behind it to have a little more security in those areas.
Yes. Well, you need to make it painful to invade you. So you need to, and a good example in Null is you need to have your ADM up. So if he wants to entosis your system, well, he's going to have to waste an hour there. And then you need to hit him on multiple time zone. And then you need to, so it need to be a pain to try to push you out. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. It reminds me of, there used to be pause warfare. Would you put up a player-owned starbase? And yeah, because I used to call it player-owned station. It wasn't. And there was this thing called the Dick Star, and all it was EM or ECM on it. That's all it was, like a ton of ECM. So it wasn't going to kill you, but it was going to make your life miserable if you were trying to kill it, because it would constantly break your lock, and you'd be there, hour after hour after hour trying to kill this thing. So that's kind of the same theory. Make yourself difficult at least.
It's more than militarily capable. Recently, we've had another gate camping group say to us, "Oh yeah, we like this area. A lot of people are coming through here. We want to take this gate camping away from you guys." And that was 7 sins. And we're like, "Oh, you got 20 people. You can camp here if you really want to." And so we just we measured what we can do and what we can't do. And so we said, okay, great. 7 sins have brought 20 people into EC TAC P8R. We're like, oh, great. Now we're going to have to look at something else for a little while. And then on the same day, what do I see on the kill? I see a kill feed. Womp has shattered 7 sins, this experienced gate camping group, this group that's supposedly decent at PvP. It's completely wiped out their cinnables. Blew my mind.
Wild. Congrats.
We're really glad to see that you've been able to expand militarily and get this experience, Thanak.
Well, yeah, we'll take those fights. I mean, definitely we will take a fight, especially in our own system. We will defend them, and I think at that specific fight with against the Cinnabol, they were actually gate camping in one of our own system. So at some point, it's okay, well, they're there and they're gate camping one of our gates, so we're not going to let them stay here. They need to move somewhere else. So we just formed up and we went to push them out. We didn't wipe them, by the way. We killed an equal number that we lost, but we did manage to push them off our system. But yeah, it was a great fight. It was a great fight.
So
They
what
I
does
haven't seen them back recently.
what does womp mean there? Get womped.
Weapons of mass production, but our ticker is WOMP.
Okay, so they're cheering. Okay, good. Do you do any branding in real life, or did that just come together really well like that?
No, that just did. Well, we were looking for free ticker to create the alliance, and we saw that one, and we managed to find a name that would fit the ticker. So
Start with the ticker first. Yeah, that's that's kind of common.
I understand
these days.
you've so far avoided. Well, you haven't really meddled that much in nullsec politics, but with what's going on in Pure Blind and Fade and Declan and Fraternity moving up north and Volta, Band of Logs, Flying Dangerous, how have you experienced? Well, what's your experience in the whole politics going on? And I guess maybe not being caught in the crossfire, but having to be in the middle of things.
okay, well, I do have a contact with all the group that own Sub and Pure Blind and the neighboring area. So I do have a line with all these alliance, and we talk regularly. We are not blue currently. We are not blue with people in the area. We're only blue with Hive Mind Federation. We changed blue in station access because that was just convenient for both of us to have a docking at their space and vice versa, and they use our market up. But typically, but they're not like very active in the area. They just hold two system and have a few station. We were initially blue with Benderlog when we arrived because we were fighting Scumlord, which was aligned with Volta. After a while, we had problem because Banderlog's renter were hitting us, and we couldn't strike back because they were hitting us from they were staging from Banderlog station, which were blue to us, but they were hitting our station. So at that point, we just reset. We gave a warning to a notification to Bender, and we reset them after a bit. So right now we're neutral with everybody. Which give us some flexibility politically. The area is very active in Pure Blind because when Fraternity push in Vale, well, Toilet Paper got evicted from their place, and they're setting up and attacking Bander. Flying Dangerous is also pushing south, so we're talking with all these groups, but we're not aligned with any. We're neutral. We're not aligned with any of these entities, but we will collaborate on some specific objective with our neighbor when it's convenient for us.
So you're neutral, but flexibly neutral.
Yeah, that's opportunistic, I would say.
Yeah. It's a great way to be, and I think it really it makes sense given your entrepreneurial spirit so far in the game.
I think you've got some excellent advisors working with you, with Rexane helping you fleet command, and the other unnamed individuals that are helping you out.
Yeah, so my name, and it goes on from there, is he explained earlier in chat that he was memeing somebody and got stuck with that name on Twitch, so that's what it is. But he asks a question or makes a statement here. Something to keep in mind is that there are two types of industrialists: those who make just enough to sustain and are scared, and the ones that make some real money and they can throw away because they'll make it back passively. This reminds me, your group reminds me of, there was a guy I met at an Eve meet one time, and we were talking, and he said, my guys are not allowed to buy anything. They have to make everything they fly. Like every last module, they have to make it. So it was almost like a warrior monk mentality. I thought that was a pretty interesting take on going out into the frontier with just the resources that you harvest in the area, and then you build out of that. I think he was getting a big kick out of living off the land, which I thought was interesting. Not to say that's what you guys are doing, but you have your sentiments remind me of that guy, like making it happen in a very natural way with natural growth instead of this exponential explosion of people coming in and stuff. I think that's cool.
Well, yeah, we do produce a lot of the ship we fly. Like a vast majority. We're not self-sufficient because we do need to import mineral, specifically Veldspar and like high-sec mineral, low-sec mineral right now. But we do produce a lot of we do have like five station producing right now, and most of the guys are industrialists. So we have our own market hub internally, and we produce most of our stuff internally.
Well, let's actually talk industry, because you saw today, I don't know if you had a chance to read that dev blog. Did you by chance read it yet?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on some of the changes that are coming?
Well, I think that it's gonna maybe push away the hobbyists, like people that weren't really serious about it.
The hobbyist in industry, or the hobbyist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hobbyist in industry, because it's putting like a good example is the T1 battleship. T1 battleship now need reaction. So the supply, the production chain for a T1 battleship is now almost as complex as a T2 ship before.
Yeah.
So somebody that's not like heavily invested into industry will not get into that. So what will happen? Well, what I think will happen is that the easier to produce ship the profit margin, which was already very, very low, is going to completely disappear, because you got to have the hobbyists are going to have less stuff to produce, and the higher tier ship, well, there are going to be less people producing them, so there's probably going to have a little more margin there, and the people that are going to get the one that are really getting the short end of the stick there are high-sec miner, because if you look at all the new blueprint, there's a lot less Veldspar that is being used. A lot less titanium that's used in producing a ship. For a Titan, it's about 10 times less. For Dread, it's at least 5 times more or more less. So you're gonna have less demand for that high-sec mineral.
Yeah.
And also everything is going to need reaction now. So there's going to be you can't do, even though you can mine the R4 moon in ISEC, you can't do the reaction there. So it's going to have to push part of the supply chain into low sec at least.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's a couple points that you made there. I'll just review them for people who didn't get that. And that is that because the capital ships have additional ingredients, their actual mineral consumption to build one goes way down, which releases a lot of minerals back into the market because they're not used to build that one ship. And you have the price for that mineral then go down because there's oversupply. And so the miner that is going to be mining for wealth has increased competition, which means sells his stuff in the market for less. And at the same time, he has to go and do more complicated stuff that's not really available to him in high sec, which is something I think that we heard earlier today as well, that a little bit of concern with the reactioning of materials that are not available in high sec. Very good point.
Yeah, the reactioning for a Tech 1 battleship is becoming a bit of a contentious issue. I would kind of understand it for maybe the faction ships, but for the Tech 1 battleship, I don't really get it.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know where to go with that one, but the changes are most of the changes that we're seeing in the shipyards are non-empire ships beyond battle cruiser. So faction ships of any sort, including ore, which are, the mining ships, or any pirate faction ships, those are getting material and reactions to get those materials put into their makeup. So you have to now get all this stuff for those kinds of ships. But the ones that are going to be easy to make still are the Empire ships, the Galente, the Minmatar, the Amar, and so forth, inside of Empire space, all the way up to battle cruiser, which is kind of interesting.
And I think one thing as well is that a lot of us are looking at this in our current era of scarcity, and as redistribution phase rolls in, and while I think there will be great upheaval for the next maybe 6 or 12 months, once things balance and settle, I think it's very hard to say right now where exactly these prices will end up. That was one thing Kenneth was quite clear on not saying this afternoon. He didn't want to speculate on how much cheaper or expensive or the profit margin on items.
Yeah, well, it's not just the mineral costs that are going to be back into the marketplace, but you have to understand they're not just doing this for ships. They're doing it for ships right now, but there's more coming. I have to think that modules and structures even and rigs are all going to have their changeover too, to have these multiple ingredient scenarios, which is going to be really interesting. And I want to go back to Thanak because you made a really good point that the hobbyist industrialist, or maybe the PvPer who was also building on the side, now has to have a lot more focus on industry. It's becoming more of a specialized discipline. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, exactly. And they're also gating a lot of these new recipe behind high skills. So you do need like Science 5, you do need the reaction, you need specific level of reaction to do certain recipe. So you will have to have a more serious skill point commitment to industry if you want to be able to build the high tier ship. Like before, building a dread, you could do it with capital construction 3. But now you're going to have to need a lot more skill to be able to build your dread. So you won't be... either you're going to have to rely on split the job between multiple people that are specializing, or one single player that wants to do all of that will have to have a lot of skill point invested into various industrial skill. So it's becoming more of a real job instead of something that you can do on the side.
Somebody earlier today on one of the streams, they were talking about the gloom and fear that these changes will make it so much more difficult for a smaller nullsec alliance to be able to do industry now, because it divides things up and adds in extra steps. Do you have these fears? Do you share these kind of fears, or you're not worried about these kind of things? You feel that? How do you feel about it?
For an nullsec group that was used to do industry and that was already doing T2 production, it's basically more of the same. You're used to managing a complex supply line, so you will still do that, and you already had people that are dedicated to do industry and that have already had a lot of skill point in industry. So these guys won't be affected by that so much. What it's going to do is it's going to make the stepping stone a little higher. So if you want to get into serious industry, well, the people that are going to hurt the most are the ISEC industrialists, I think, with that. Then you're going to have to make a choice at some point to say, okay, I need to, if I want to be efficient at doing that industrial job, I need to think about going too low or going too null, because I'm getting too much of the supply chain close to me. I can't do reaction. If I can't do reaction, I can produce battleship. There's a lot of stuff. So either you're consuming because you're buying from somebody else that's going to do that, and then you're losing a large chunk of your profit. So I think that's going to
Yeah, that's a good observation. But don't you think that there's now room for maybe this interdependence that we are kind of looking for, where you find buyers, maybe channels spring up or service groups spring up to match buyers with sellers off market, so you can buy in bulk, or these kinds of other ways, so that somebody in high sec that doesn't have access to the stuff that he needs doesn't have to be buying it off the market where he's going to take a huge price hit. But maybe there's alternative ways to do that.
Well, I'll just go with my perspective. If I'm running a reaction, I'm probably going to use what I'm producing from that reaction to assemble it in low or in nullsec to get the nullsec bonus to the production, to the ship production too. So I'm getting better bonus anyway in nullsec. So it's easier to export a full ship. So I'm not going to go do reaction and export my reaction material. I'm gonna produce locally and export the finished product to grab 100% of the profit and not split it with somebody else.
Yeah. Do you think, though, one last question about this, because this is something we talk about a lot, is do you think there will be more interdependence between players? Like one player builds the small pieces and another player will actually trade with that player and build the bigger pieces. And then another player yet will actually build the thing. That's the interdependence between these people selling things back and forth. Or do you think people will stay with what they're doing now and be fully verticalized from start to finish, do all the pieces themselves so they can absorb or get the most amount of profit?
My guess is people will keep, well, obviously not, it's not going to be 100% one way or the other, but my feeling is that people are going to go vertical, because when somebody is calculating calculating his build job, he's usually starting from the base component and trying to assemble everything. Typically he will, because and in what he will buy is what is oversupplied in the market right now. So if there's one specific reaction, for example, that is losing me money, I'm going to buy that one because I'm not going to do it and lose money. So I'm going to buy the finished good because it's oversupplied. But typically, you start from the beginning and you're grabbing like 2-3% there, 2-3% there, 2-3% there. Mm-hmm. To in the end, when you're going there for your finished ship, you're getting 30-35%. So.
Right, you got to add up all those little percentages to make something good of it, I guess.
Yeah.
How are your concerns on the fact that things are so divided now? Have you got somebody to supply you the gases, somebody to supply you obviously the minerals, and somebody to supply you the PI? Have you worked out the critical path for this supply chain that it's now added in?
Well, the one thing that we didn't have before was the gases that are now needed for every ship. We do in our corp. We do have access to a few people that can get it from wormhole. So we are not we won't have. We're big enough and we have enough contact that even though we're a small alliance, we're a small alliance of 300 people. So we are at a point where we have access we can get access to the supply we need. For a smaller group, that might be problematic, but again, there's always open market where you can get the.
No, I don't think so. I just think you've been doing a great job over the last 12 plus months, and the little community you fostered around yourself. And I've actually randomly met some of your court mates in space, both hostile and non-hostile, and they've been nothing but friendly gentlemen and gentle ladies. So thank you for what you're doing for the community, and keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much for having me here.
And I'm glad to have you in Pure Blind as well. So far, one of the other groups in Pure Blind has a gag order against Plucky. I'm glad you don't. Love you guys, and I believe Aetherius wishes to 1v1 your Thanatos in ECP on the sun at 0.
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry. The last comment was muted to the group, but it was really just a call for last questions or anything like that. Thanak, it was really nice to meet you. Thanak streams on gaming since the 70s on YouTube. He has a great series called, what was it? Building My Empire?
Building My Industrial Empire.
Industrial Empire. What a great time to be an industrialist. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be, like you said, the Industrial Revolution with these new changes.
Yeah, somebody coined that phrase out there, and I think it's appropriate. It's the Industrial Revolution and Eve. I don't know if people realize how significant the industrial changes are, but they're literally earth-shaking for an entire branch of this game, which really feeds the rest of the tree. So I don't think it's over yet. I think we're seeing the beginning of some major changes that go along with the mineral scarcity. And it'll be funny. It'll be interesting, not funny, but it'll be interesting to see how alliances adapt that are huge. And it'll be interesting to see what smaller alliances do, like yours, Thanak.
And I also think it's interesting that he's been playing say a little over a year, so he joined in a time of such industrial upheaval and change, with a lot of people giving out. It's too hard, it's too difficult, you can't make money anymore. And here we have a prime example of someone starting from scratch and building an industrial empire during such a time of upheaval.
That's right.
So it can be done.
Yeah,
it can be done. It's just it's a lot of work, but it can be done.
All right, awesome, Thanak. We'll be watching you. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody for hanging out. We talked a little bit about war, a little bit about the industrial changes. Again, if you want to see the full reaction, you can check that out on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/talkinginstations. And me and Kenneth Feld there on the cover with a big reaction sign behind us. That's the one, 2.5 hours of talk about what's in this change. We're also going to talk about it on Sunday for Talking in Stations, the weekend report. We'll talk all about the changes there, and that'll be a topic for a while. And we also talked today to Thanak from WOMP, right? Weapons of Mass Production. So check him out. Check out his YouTube, which is Gaming Since the 70s, and subscribe. He's got great content on there. A lot of us are fans of his work. It's okay. We will raid somebody, probably open comms. Have a great weekend. And that's all from Talking in Stations.